Here we go. Good evening. Shalom. So happy to be here. Good morning, Rose. Good evening, Yonatan. Rose?
Hi, Tova. Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, today Jonathan is going to share with us his journey to being able to produce docutherapy films. Both his movies, or three movies that I saw over the weekend, are really amazing. I put them on Facebook to let people know, but apparently Jonathan's going to put them on a platform later on. And when he does, we'll be able to share it with all of you. But his journey to docutherapy is so worth listening to. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you for inviting me.
So tell us from hello. How did it begin? How did your journey begin? Please share.
Well, I was born 43 years ago, somewhere in the desert in Israel. And I grew up in a kibbutz to a pretty normal family, but divorced. So I was kind of in between houses, running around as a kid in the fish ponds. I fell in love with nature. And from a young age, I was death was part of my life. My cousin, my beloved cousin, was kidnapped and murdered, and that was a big thing for the whole family, of course. And that's almost like my first memory is my grandfather's, crying when they find her. And then later on, I grew up in a kibbutz, and I think I had pretty good childhood. And then I went to the military service and was, in one of the elite forces of the Israeli army. And during that time that I was in the army, I lost many friends. Some of them were classmates, two of them actually. One of them was from my squad. So death was around me again. And after that experience that I had, I served 3.5 years in the military service as a mine and demolition expert, mine clearance expert. And then after after I was released from the military service, I started traveling, like many Israelis. And in my case, it took me 7 years to kind of make a closure with my country and to come back home. During that time, I really circled the globe, and I saw places, from Papua New Guinea to Central America, to Hawaii, many Africa, Asia, 46 states in the United States. And I really saw the world, and I fell in love with traveling, and I also fell in love with another thing, which is photography. I realized that the pictures that I take are actually more than that, just pictures. The pictures that I take creates memories for me. That I remember the pictures. I remember the moments when I had a camera in my head and I took the picture. This is what I remember. I don't remember many other things. I remember my pictures, and that made me think that I can actually use the camera in order to create memories for myself. And I started to do that. I started to take pictures for myself to remember the people that I met along the way. At some point, some people told me, well, that's not too bad. Maybe you should publish it. So I started publishing it in many magazines and newspapers around the world. And at some point, I decided that I want to move to filmmaking because of some amazing documentaries that I've seen and really touched me. But I didn't have the guts to do that. But then when I came back to Israel in 2006, I thought to myself, that's it. I completed the circle the globe, and I'm back home, and I kind of finished the unfinished business that I had with my country. And then I got a job in the dolphin reef in Eilat as a dolphin photographer. That's what I did. as a diving instructor and a dolphin photographer. Did that for a couple of months, and then when I thought that everything is going to be okay, we had another war called the Second Lebanon War, and I was recruited um, how do you say it, Miluim, the reserve forces. And during this war, I was injured from explosion of a landmine, together with two other friends. And I was, I was in a hospital, and I was really down and depressed after the injury. Then I went back to where I lived at the time, which was Eilat. And I thought to myself, I'm going to go back to work with the dolphins tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day. But I couldn't find the energy to get myself out of bed and go to work. And I stayed home for a long time. And I didn't want to see people and so on. And at some point, a friend of mine told me, the dolphins are there. It's a very special place. It's in the open ocean, so you can go and swim with the dolphins. And he said, my friend, the dolphins are there. Even if you don't go back to work with them, you can just go swim or dive with them. You're gonna enjoy it. Why shouldn't? Why are you staying home? You should use this anchor that you have in your life, the ocean, the nature, the connection with the animals. And this is what I did. And the next morning, I woke up really early. I went to the dolphin reef. I met, this guy opened the door before all the other people came in. So I was all alone. I went into the water, and all the dolphins came to me. And there were like 6 dolphins circling me, swimming with me, playing with me, diving with me. And I felt like they are there for me, like because I didn't see them for like 2 months because of the war and my injury. And it was one of the most beautiful moments that I had in my life with nature. And I had quite a lot of beautiful moments with nature, but it was one of the top ones. And I went out of the water, and I told myself I must tell this story about this inexplicable connection between men and dolphins and how it can help people that experience traumas.
Wow.
And weeks later came the protagonist of my first film, Dolphin Boy, which was a boy who was injured, who was brutally beaten, bullied at school. And as a result of that, he suffered from extreme post-traumatic dissociation. And the psychiatrist that saw him after a week or 2 weeks that he couldn't speak, he couldn't say a word, told his father, you have 2 options. One is to hospitalize him in a mental institution, and the other one is to take him to the dolphin reef. And he decided to take him to the dolphin reef, and that became my first documentary, Dolphin Boy. And then I continued with other documentaries in the past 10 years. Each one of them has his special story, but they're all connected. They're all about 2 main things, about trauma and recovery, and about the healing powers of nature.
Wow.
Yeah. When you were stuck at home all that time, were you continually thinking about your colleagues who had died? Is that what was happening to you? Why you wanted to stay home?
When I was
when you stayed home and didn't go anywhere and secluded yourself, was that because you kept thinking about, I should have died too, or what was happening to you?
No, when you're in this situation, it's not like you have an organized thought about, what is that I'm thinking and what is wrong about my thinking and what. No, it's just a bad, depressing feeling. I think that guilt is always part of post trauma, or in most time, it's a part of post trauma. And I had my guilt feelings, which took me years to understand where they came from. But yeah, it was not that simple. It was not like I should have died and that's it. No, it was a bad feeling of anger, and I didn't want to see people. I was very I was very sensitive to lights and to explosions and to I just was in a bad mood, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about the movie Cutting the Pain, and how that guy, secluded himself. And I thought you probably got a similar sort of story about, staying away from everyone because you felt so sad or angry or whatever. That was all. Because your other move.
So I think that the best way, maybe I should tell a bit about cutting the pain so people will know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
do please. Yeah.
So parallel to Dolphin Boy, I made another film which is called Cutting the Pain, and it's about this. One day I got a phone call from a friend, and he said, there is a huge story happening. I know that you're working on Dolphin Boy. I didn't know it would be called Dolphin Boy at the time. It was just the beginning. We said, there is another idea that I want to give you. There's this guy who's about to get his leg amputated in 4 or 5 days. Wow. And he's happy and excited towards this amputation. He's actually waiting for this amputation for 7 years. And I was like, what? What is this story? I mean, this dissonance between about a person who wants to cut something off his body. It was just so bizarre, and I thought, I want to see it. I want to understand because I'm curious. So I came there with a camera, and I find this person who was suffering from CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, which was called in the past RSD, and he suffered this immense pain in his leg for many years, and he got a permission to go through a leg amputation because the pain went up and up and up and up and up and up in his leg. So at some point they realized that the only solution is to actually amputate his leg. And it was a very difficult and long procedure to make this decision, because many times after the amputation, in cases of CRPS, the pain will go to the other leg, or to the place where where the leg was cut already. And that was a very interesting story to follow. It was 2 years in the making. Dolphin Boy was 5 years in the making.
Wow.
Sorry, Cutting the Pain was 3 years. Dolphin Boy was 5 years. This film behind me, Picture of His Life, which we just released, and anyone can watch it anywhere in the world, took me 10 years to complete. So I believe that documentaries can be a part of a healing process, and that is the thing that I was investigating in the past 10 years.
Now, tell us a little bit more about how you created this formal docutherapy, because now people with trauma and with pain can actually rewrite their story. Can you share a little bit about that with us, please?
Well, you really simplified it, I have to say. But
we've got half an hour.
Well,
let's just say, Yonatan, let's just say that we want to give a tool, we want to give a present to our listeners. They don't have a camera. You are privileged. Maybe they can hire you. Maybe they can, who knows? The sky's the limit. But what can they do with what they have in order to get a little closer to understand themselves through their trauma? Tell us, can you answer that?
Well, docutherapy is not a technique. It's an idea that I developed together with a very famous psychologist in Israel named Yoram Ben Yehuda, who had been for a long time the chief psychologist of the IDF. And he investigated for a couple of years the possibility to use media in general and documentary films in particular in cases of trauma, and how to actually use the camera, the screen, the screenwriting, script writing, the editing, and even the distribution of the film how to use it in order to help people who experience trauma. And when I came to him, I actually came to ask for advice because I realized that I work with two extreme cases of trauma. CRPS ended up to be a manifestation, a physical manifestation of a PTSD. And the same with a guy with a dolphin boy. He experienced a difficult trauma. Here with picture of his life is the same story. And I realized that I'm dealing with something which is very difficult and I can cause harm to people using it in the wrong way. I have the camera in my hand. I can ask any question I want to ask. I have no clue what is PTSD, you know, and I can cause harm. And I didn't want to do that. I felt responsible. So what I did is I went to Yoram Ben Yehuda, and he said, you know, maybe we can work together. And in the next couple of years, we developed and worked on a protocol, which we call Docutherapy, how to use documentary filmmaking in order to help people experience pain and trauma. This is not something that I can teach a person who is not yet, who is dealing with a difficulty or with a trauma. It is a tool for psychologists or psychiatrists to use probably in the future. I'm not doing that. I'm making commercial films, and that's why I spread the knowledge that I gained in the past 10 years on a TEDx talk, on a TED talk, which you can watch. You can maybe send it to people.
Yeah.
And
that out, Jonathan. We put that out for everyone to watch.
but it's really not for, like, I am also considered as someone who suffered from PTSD, and not too bad, fortunately. And I did a really long process of recovery, and still dealing with it. But and for me, making the films and dealing with PTSD and understanding the mechanism of PTSD really helped me with my own story. But I think that what really pushed me forward is inspirational stories of other people who I was lucky to follow and to document, and to see how life can change over the course of time. And
Dolphin Boy really shows that up, doesn't it? Like he can't even speak. Dolphin Boy, he can't speak, and yet he leans down and reaches for the dolphin and touches the dolphin and makes a human connection again. It's just beautiful. Yeah. And then
it was very touching to see how nature can heal us. And you know, if you, my recommendation is to get connected to nature.
Wow, it's the best thing.
yeah, yeah.
My recommendation
Yeah.
my recommendation is maybe the thing that I can tell someone who doesn't have a camera, who is not a documentary filmmaker, and who doesn't work with a psychologist who is who can do the process of docutherapy, which is still, it's just an idea. It's not developed to a real technique that people use around the world. I believe that in 10 years it will be, but not right now, as much as I know. So I'm only in a place of I'm consulting people today about that. I'm not doing that for a living.
True, but the idea is out there now, and I mean that's what you've opened up through your filmmaking, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, docutherapy in general, if you're interested, is not. When you look at my films, you will not see docutherapy. You will not see the whole process of docutherapy, because in docutherapy, the person who is the victim of the trauma is becoming the protagonist, the hero of his story, and then later he becomes the storyteller, meaning he is the one who's sitting with me in the editing room. He is the one who's writing the script. He's the one who's choosing the music. He's the one who's gaining control over his story and getting away and seeing his story from different angles that are changing as he's moving from the position of a victim to the position of a person who's acting. We do reenactment. I mean, it's a whole process. It's not for 5 minutes to speak about.
Yeah.
Right. But you actually cut it, you made it very explicit in a way when you, with cutting the pain, how he went back and he realized the explosion, it wasn't his fault. But in all that period, he believed it was his fault, didn't he? That those other men died.
Yeah, and unfortunately, people here cannot watch Cutting the Pain, so because it's not online at the moment, and there are no links to the film, and hopefully within a month and a half or 2 months, I will have my platform with all my films on that. It's still in the process.
But let's talk a little bit about, I want to just get the story out because it's so fascinating. And when Rose and I do our education and we do some therapy, we always bring in the example of the phantom leg and how the leg is gone and he has a neurological pathway that's feeling the pain even without the leg, and he can never get rid of that pathway. It's there. I have pain in my leg. When the leg is gone, he's like, I have pain in my leg. But what we're taught, I learned this from a neurologist, is that we can make a new pathway. So basically in Cutting the Pain, Matan got his leg cut off thinking the pain will go away, but the trauma was still there because that was the pathway. The neurological pathway was more the emotional trauma. So can you talk about that? Because that our viewers will understand and can relate to that. First of all, the brain can create pain. This is just, and the brain can take the pain away. That's just the title of this show. The brain can make the pain. The brain can take it away. That's number one. And can you talk more about what happened with Matan and how it ended up? Because I think not only people will understand and get that, but they'll want to see your show in a month. They'll want to see the movie in a month, and we'll get it to them.
Well, it's really complicated story. It's you've seen the film, so know what he had to go through in order for his pain to go away. He had to to his trauma to be released in a way, his energy to be released. He had to go through a couple of very powerful decisions. He made the decisions. One thing that is happening in the film, and again, I don't want to ruin for the people, is really out of the world. It's when he's in coma and he's meeting his grandfather.
Yeah,
and it's
but before that, he's before he even gets his prosthesis, he's taking up dancing and trying to get into his life and feeling again, whether it's for a woman or whether it's for this joy of this Spanish dancing, which was you captured something beautiful there.
I suggest that instead of speaking about a film that they haven't seen, we can speak about the power of photography. All of us take pictures all the time. Okay?
Okay.
All of us create when we are taking a picture. What we do, the first thing we do, even if you take a picture of your kids or of the sunset, first decision you make is this, and this is called framing. It takes time to do that. And anyway, it's no, yeah, great. No,
wait, no, I didn't do it correctly.
Anyway, we'll work on it later. But
this is what you go to be. This is what you become a doctor to do.
When you do the framing, very good. If the frame is not good enough, you do reframing. Yeah, you frame something else. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have some psychologists in the audience, they know that reframing is actually coming. I mean, it's a method in psychology. it's basically making a decision, a conscious or not conscious decision, or unconscious decision, unconscious or non-conscious, I don't know.
It's saying unconscious. It's a subconscious.
Subconscious decision.
Unconscious, subconscious, yeah. Below the conscious.
What out of this really unlimited reality that surrounds us any given second, you know? In this second, so many people die, so many people fall in love, so many people leave their home, so many people coming back. There's so many stories that are happening in any given second. And with a camera, we make a decision what out of this reality we want to capture and we want to make into part of our lives. And the same thing is happening with our cameras that are up here, with these senses that we have here. And here we have these amazing microphones, and here we have this amazing editing software. And
Beautiful.
we have some kind of control, not over what happened to us. We cannot have any control almost on what is happening to us, but we have almost full control on how we react to it. What is our reaction to what?
Say that again. Say that again. It's a very profound thing. We have very much control over how we react to it.
How we react to that. How do we frame it? What is the story that we're telling? Gabriel Garcia Marquez won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1983, said once, life is not what one lived through, but what one remembered, and how one remembered it in order to recount it. So we have this idea that we can control, in a way we can control how we frame the reality, how we frame the situation, how we tell the story in a slightly different way, you know, and then we can create this better energy that is coming into our life, and it become, like I said in the beginning, I take the pictures, I create memories, the memories become my identity reflect on the future, on the people I meet, on the stories I hear. It's like when you really want to buy a car, a specific car. Let's say you want to buy a Toyota, okay, Land Cruiser. You're gonna start see many Toyota Land Cruisers driving around all the time. That's one of my dreams. I want to do it one day. And I see Toyota Land Cruiser all the time. There's not more of them right now, but that's my conscious. That's my mind is looking
your conscious brain, your conscious brain, conscious, subconscious.
So the same thing is happening to us when we start to reframe our story in a slightly different way. What I do with documentaries is help people that experience severe traumas to retell the story in a different way. And then their life change, their memories are created, new memories. They see one of the problems with trauma is stagnation. And when you see that, you can see the story from different ways, from different angles, one time as the victim, but then the second time as the actor, and then the third time as the cinematographer, and the fourth time as the one who watched the materials, and the fifth time as the editor, and the sixth time as the distributor, the one who stands on stage and talk about your story. Then you move. There is a movement.
Wow.
Movement in your life, and things are released, and better things are coming in. And that's my way to look at.
Wow.
It doesn't take the trauma away, but it puts it in context that you're still alive, doesn't it?
It's more than that. All the good things that I do today, all the films that I've made, all the awards that I won, my wife that I met, my 3 amazing daughters, all of it happened after my trauma. Okay? So I grew from my trauma. My trauma was the pain that I experienced helped me connect with other people, because everybody feel pain in their lives. So when you share your pain, when you speak to people, then of course it depends on the situation of the person, if he's ready for that. you know, what kind of support he has. Does he have someone who works with him? You know, I don't think you should do it alone, but someone can help you. And then when you share your pain, when you share your story with the world, then it becomes inspiration for someone to help someone else. And when you help someone else with your pain, it gets a sense of meaning. And sense of meaning is one of the most important things for happiness.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, the other things that I have been thinking about as you've been speaking is the fact that that friend implored you to go back to the dolphins. How did that connection make you feel? That, you know, like your friend really was deeply thinking about your need.
Yeah, that's also very important. Very important. Friendship, you know, we are now in the time of Corona. Let's talk about the Corona, for example. This is a very difficult time for everyone, especially for people who experience something very difficult in their life. And that's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, financial stress, fear, masks, no smiles, confused governments. You feel like nobody really takes care of you. You feel lonely. Everybody feels that. Now then the question, what you do with it, what you do with this new situation, and how you can elevate it into something better for you. And I can tell you, I was sick with Corona 2 weeks ago. I was sick with my.
We met you, yeah. We met you.
Daughters, and Corona for me, Corona taught me a lot of things, and it helped me. You know, it helped me get rid of things that I wanted to get rid of. It helped me go back to things that I always wanted to do, and it really helped me ask myself, okay, if that's the last day of my life, how do I want it to look like?
Lovely.
You know? And what is the story that I want to tell? That's the bottom line. You know, what is the story that you want to tell? What is, you know, what is the thing that you want people to know about you? What is the positive impact that you want to leave behind you? You know, how do you want to live a better world in your eyes? You know, so how do you live connected how do you live connected to your inner goals, to your dreams, to your hopes? How do you stay positive, you know, during these hard times?
Yeah. And you're well now? You're over it, completely over it?
Yeah, I'm over. I'm doing sport every day. I'm doing meditation almost every day. I am I'm developing new things like this platform where you'll be able to watch my film, hopefully soon. I must say that during this conversation I went into my Vimeo, and it might be that it's already possible to watch the films. I don't know.
I have a confession to make. I spoke to your secretary. Did she tell you?
She's not my secretary. She's my manager. Please.
Manager, even better. So I spoke to Almog, and she was amazing. I said, we're two women. We could run the world right now. Let's just get something done. I said, Rose and I want people to be able to see Cutting the Pain. We want people to see at least the little scene.
Yeah.
And people are willing to pay for it. And she said, I'm on it. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even get to I didn't have to bother Yonatan. So she sent me a link, and I've been posting it for the last couple days.
Yeah, is it? But if it's only the scene, it's only.
No, I think it's the movie. She told me, and you could pay for it. And she was like, She was like, Tova, check my English. I said, your English is perfect. And I think people have been watching it. So
good. I'm really happy. I'm happy that this film, it's a film that is very close to my heart, and it had some success around the world, not like my other films, because it's a difficult film.
Right. It is difficult. It's not an easy film.
But it has a lot of hope in the end.
Yeah.
So never lose hope.
So I have a question. you know, it happens to be that some people, it's not a generalization, but a lot of people that go through trauma, you know, turn out to be very, very creative, or the trauma makes them creative because they need a place of expression. So, you know, I work with musicians and artists, and I see that they're expressing themselves through their art, through their music. But maybe what you're saying, because you explained it so beautifully about the ears and the eyes and the mouth, and maybe it's not complete enough. That if someone's just doing art or just doing music, maybe they need a more fuller way to get the trauma out there. Because again, I'm looking for something for our members and our patients and clients to grab onto, because what you're talking about is so like real. It's so, it can help a lot of people, and we're all doing it. We're all talking our traumas, living our traumas, but maybe you're giving us a way to channel it. And so with our camera, you told us what to do, but with art or music or drawing or singing, can we channel it more?
I think that creation in general, any kind of creation, is creating a movement. You know, you do something, you create something, you take a page, a blank paper, and you create something on that. And when you create something, you can get out something from within you.
Yeah,
And create,
exactly.
and create this flow of energy. This is what I believe. And I think there's many ways to help yourself. Okay, I kind of, because I'm not a psychologist and I never studied anything, I didn't even finish 12th grade. I tend not to look at myself as someone who, even my films, I don't think that they healed someone, you know, or they helped. I think that the people that came to me with their stories, they were ready to go through the process, and the camera helped them.
Right.
Yeah. So, and when people watch your movies, they then can create their own process. Yes, you know, like that's how it happened for me, and I can also build on that. And you know, can I also mention that my hero brother is such an amazing movie as well, and many of our patients have trauma, family trauma, when they've got well, in that instance, a Down syndrome sibling, but also when parents have mental illness and are distracted, they often feel the pain in their bodies later about the pain of not being connected to people. And that moving through the Himalayas, it was just amazing. Can you just, what was the inspiration to create that movie? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so my hero brother, which is, where is it? No. Which is this film over there. Where is it? Over there somewhere.
Yeah. In the background.
Anyway, my hero brother is a film about this young people with Down syndrome who are going together with their siblings, with their brothers and sisters on a demanding trek in the Himalayas. And it's a film about the relationship between these amazing brothers and sisters. And I got connected to it through a friend of mine who has a brother with Down syndrome. And he took his brother to this trip in the Himalayas one-on-one. And they had the best time, or very, let's say, not the best, but very important time together. And then as a result of his trip, many other people came to him and said, basically, you know, we want to do it. You know, we want to do it too with our special need Down syndrome brother or sister.
Wow, amazing.
Group is 20 people, 10 with Down syndrome, 10 without, and they went on this amazing trip. It's a film that was released in 2016, and it's today the most successful Israeli film, documentary Israeli film of all times, basically, with more than 160,000 students that watched it, high school students, and many hundreds of thousands thousands and millions around the world, including in China and many other countries. And it won many festivals. And it was a pleasure to make this film because people with special needs, they have a gift. They can teach us a lot about ourselves. They kind of, in my feeling, in my view, they make us connected to ourselves better. Especially people with Down syndrome, which I met, they really make you feel more. They make you more connected to the present. They're less. They don't have. They're not cynical. They have pure love. How do you say it? Like a love that is not
unconditional
love. Which is something that we miss a lot these days.
And Rose and I were talking about the trauma that siblings, parents go through way more than the actual special needs child. And that's what you're also showing the world.
Yeah, it definitely goes into the complex relationship between within families when one person has special needs. And how is it to grow up with a brother or sister with Down syndrome? How does it affect your life? I can tell you that all the brothers and sisters that were part of these films are amazing human beings. They didn't have simple life. Probably they had some difficulties, but they grew up to become really amazing human beings.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want to say to the audience, which a lot of people know, but I grew up with my mother having MS, and I always knew multiple sclerosis, and I always knew that it was worse for all of us more than her. I was aware of that, but then my whole life happened, and the compass of my life changed, and I'm so benefiting from my trauma. I'm so growing and so blessed to be able to find the gift in my trauma and in my mother's sickness. So, it would be, I think it's making me a better doctor, a better human being, a better mother, a better grandmother. And this is sort of another example of how we can take our trauma and channel it, what you're saying, channel it to make it work, help us be better people. Like you said, you're a different person because of even having corona, which was a mini trauma to your system.
I think that all of us has corona in our system. Even if you're not sick, you are part of this new world that was created by corona, and it's not going away. And it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call for all of us to slow down and to ask ourselves what is really important, and to ask ourselves what do we want to become, what is the story that we want to tell about ourselves, about our families, about our life, and how can we continue to live with nature in the future. And my latest film, Picture of His Life, is about this photographer who's going to swim with polar bears in the Canadian Arctic. And you're very welcome to watch it. You just go on pictureofhislife.com or YonatanNir.com, and you can watch this film in English. It's a production by Nancy Spielberg, the sister of Steven Spielberg. It's a film that I directed and produced together with my Dolphin Boy partner, Danny Menkin, about this amazing wildlife photographer, Amos Nahum, he's one of the top in the world, who's going to accomplish his lifelong dream to swim with a polar bear and take a picture of a polar bear face to face, unprotected. And he has done it before that with orcas and anacondas and crocodiles and great white sharks and many other marine predators and mammals, big ones. And this time we do it with this epic animal, with a polar bear. something that no one have tried before him to do. And
Wow.
we went with him to the Canadian Arctic. And as we go there, we start to understand his very complex story. And his father was an abusive father who suffered from PTSD, and he himself suffered from PTSD and didn't even know that. It all exploded. It all went. It all opened up when we were up there in the Canadian high Arctic.
Wow.
Nowhere.
Yeah. And is that documented in the movie?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
film that is called Picture of His Life. Picture of His Life.
A picture of his life.
Picture of His Life.
Yeah.
And you can either go pictureofhislife.com to watch this movie, or you can go on YonatanNir.com to watch this movie. I think it will be easier for you to go to pictureofhislife.com. You just
Fantastic.
watch the film.
So you would take it. You were the photographer for the photographer.
I was underwater. We had two photographers. One is Amos, and the other one is Adam Ravitch, an Emmy Award-winning cinematographer from America, from the United States. And I was the cinematographer from the boat. So I saw a polar bear from maybe 2 meters, 2.5 meters, and but I was lying on the bow of the boat and filming him as he was swimming next to us and looking at me in the eyes. And this is a moment that I will never forget.
Wow.
We had a couple of encounters. We spent the whole journey was 2 weeks. I had to fly nine flights from Israel in order to get very remote locations that no human being have ever visited before, pretty much. And we spent some time with the Inuit people, amazing people. Lived with them, understood a bit about their culture.
Like the Eskimos. You mean Eskimos?
You don't say Eskimos. Eskimos is
sorry. I'm sorry.
Is a bad word. You don't say.
Oh,
Yeah.
whoa.
Inuit. Yeah.
Inuits. Good to know. Good to know.
I didn't know that either, but yeah, they get very offended when you say Eskimos.
Yeah. Wow. It's very good to know. It's fascinating. Your wife must be some kind of, amazing woman to let you travel like that, and she's left with lots of estrogen in your house.
She had difficult. The past 10 years were pretty difficult because I was making so many films and traveling so much and lecturing all around the world. But that's another thing that Corona gave me. I have much more time at home, and I can spend more time with my daughters and with my wife, and I can work on new films at the moment here in Israel, even though I work on some productions abroad, but I don't direct them, I only produce them. I have a film about shark, the beauty of sharks and the people who try to save them from extinction, which is a global film we shoot all over the world.
Wow.
Using cameramen because we cannot go there, so because you cannot get out of Israel at the moment, but using some systems we are able to direct from far away, and they use local cameramen. So it's
wow. So you've become innovative in so many ways, haven't you? From Corona, you've had to become innovative. Like directing from Israel, but like in Australia using local people. Yeah.
It's someone wrote something.
Yeah, this is a wonderful therapist that we just met from Denmark, and she wrote, "Trauma primes us into deeper understanding of life, as we are taught all we know about love and pain. And with that, we are able to connect with others, co-creating deep healing processes." Profound, really, really.
Very, very beautiful. Is she here now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very beautiful quote. Really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
I I would love to quote her one day. And
Yeah, is it okay,
maybe
Ricky?
maybe on my website, because it's just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
beautiful, beautiful
wonderful.
quote.
Can you do that, Ricky? Can you write it on his website for him?
I think she's going to be. She's a new therapist we just met, and seems delightful, very expressive, and I would like to ask you that. I mean, how do you decide? I mean, you're going to have a waiting list of movies of stories. Like
How
my story. Like, how are you going to decide? Or maybe you could have a school. We talked about this. You having a school and training photographers to do docutherapy, so everyone gets their story. No.
I don't. I taught in schools and universities. It's too early for me. I don't feel that I know enough to teach.
Right. But I mean, like, how are you deciding what trauma to film?
First of all, trauma is well, I tell you a story, okay? Trauma is maybe a difficult word, people think of it, as I don't have it, I have it,
It's like a negative word. I think it's a negative word.
I just say that I completely agree with Rick, who
Ricky.
just put the trauma, Ricky, that trauma is a tool for us to grow. Many psychologists speak today about post-traumatic growth, growing from your trauma. And I think that it's also something that connects us, because all of us experience throughout our life pain and trauma. And even today, when they speak with psychologists, speak about, when you want to get connected as a psychologist to the person that you work with, you also need to touch your personal pain. I truly believe so. I believe that if you just look at things as an observer, you cannot really help anyone. You have to feel your pain. You have to connect to your pain. You have to connect to you have to be connected to yourself in order to be in a process of healing with someone else.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, really, really beautiful. You're learning a lot. You're learning a lot behind that camera, Dr. Yonatan. You really are learning a lot. I mean, if people call you and say, "Do you want to do some therapy with me?" What do you say? Talk to my wife?
No, I'm too busy. I have 4 huge productions in the next 2 years.
Wow.
And I don't take anything else because I need to focus on what I want to do, and give the best I can to what I do, and I have enough experience to know. And that's one of the reasons why I made this TED Talk, because I felt that I have a lot of knowledge or, experience with something which can maybe help other people. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I should just share it with the world, and anyone that can use it,
right,
can use it. I don't care. I don't have a trademark on that. I don't care about it.
But if somebody wants to learn it, what do they do? What's the next step for anyone who wants to learn docutherapy for themselves, for the business?
Well, at the moment, I find myself many times come and lecture about it.
Yeah.
To professionals, to psychologists, psychiatrists, judges, even social workers in big conventions. And I speak about docutherapy and I show them my film. But from there, they do whatever they want. I believe if you ask me, if someone is a psychologist and is willing to take a couple of months to study filmmaking, and listening to the TED Talk that I gave, and start to work with psychology, and if he's a psychologist or if he's working with psychology, he can start to do docutherapy. Basically taking a person who experienced a trauma and creating together with him a film about his life, about his trauma, and about his recovery. And this is something that I've done many, many times with a lot of success, with my protagonist in my commercial films, and also in smaller films that we did in mental institutions, with some first response organizations in Israel, and with some people we're sitting in how do you say it, in where people are captivated during wars. So this when
People
they're
are,
released,
where they're kept prisoner of war? Prisoner of
prisons of
war?
wars. Yeah, so I work
Wow.
with some prisons of wars,
Wow.
and
No,
with great results.
yeah. Will all those films be on your platform?
All
Like,
my films, well, at the moment, I'm working on a platform which will be in Hebrew, English, and Spanish. And on this platform, you'll be able to watch any of my 5 different films, the 5 different films that I have. Of course, sign up to the newsletter, get information about new productions, and so on. Get
So,
connected to some past stories that I already published in many places around the world, in many publications around the world, and basically, become my friend and become my friend to this journey of life, and what I do, and
yeah. So
I hope you like it.
we'll be able to put that on our YouTube channel anyway, so people can connect with you via the channel, and we'll put the link to the platform, and then that way it's there on our channel. Then
You're gonna speak about it with my manager, and she will tell you what to do, because I'm not that good result of
good. You're delegating. You're delegating. I like it. It's a good
focusing
quality.
on on what I need to do, and I try to
Right.
be very focused
Right.
on that.
Well, I'm really glad you're here in Israel for a while, and because Israel, I mean, you could really just do enough right here in this special country. But before we say goodnight, does anyone out there have any more questions? Everyone's been listening intently. Any more questions for Yonatan or Rose or I about Docutherapy? It's really exciting. I think people could be writing some suggestions. People could be writing, like writing about their trauma, but maybe reframing it. Maybe reframing it while they're writing, or something like that. Or somehow, like we recommend journaling, but journaling, I think, has some limitations. But how could journaling is different than writing about your trauma? It could be journaling, but you're saying go maybe a step further. Don't be the victim, be the hero. Would you agree to
Yeah,
that?
I don't know enough about other therapy, art therapy. I know that people do therapy with, I know a bit about phototherapy, because I'm making now a film about phototherapy, group of people with post-trauma, in a mental institution. It's really, really interesting. Um, and phototherapy is very similar to docutherapy, but docutherapy has more stations. So you're moving. It's a longer process. In docutherapy, you're basically photographing, what you relate. Let's say in the work that we do in this mental institution, they are being told to take a picture of love, and they're walking somewhere, and then each one of them is taking different pictures, and then they come back and we sit and we speak about the pictures, and there are things that you cannot speak about, but you can take a picture of it, and then a conversation started, and it's like a magic, you know he's saying something, she's saying something, and it's all connected. It's a process of healing within the group. What we do in docutherapy is different, because we take them and making them the creators of their own story. The story is not the story about the trauma, it's a story about the recovery.
yeah,
But the problem with docutherapy, that it requires much more knowledge and experience, because you need to know how to edit films, how to film, how to script write, how to create a story. It takes more. It's more complicated than writing.
yeah.
Uh, and that's why I think it's only in the beginning of the it it's not yet a proper technique. It's just an idea that we developed.
It's evolving. It's evolving.
It's the vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not mine anymore. You can use it. You can do whatever you want. You can investigate it. I'll be happy to consult. I'll be happy to share knowledge. But I don't, I don't want to open a school. I don't want to. I need to make my new films.
I'm gonna answer Karen's question in a minute. It's good to hear from you, Karen. But I want to just mention how, remember years ago, the Horse Whisperer came out. It was a story in a movie about a person who fell off the horse, and then the therapy was with the horse. So it's sort of capturing nature and to go back to the place where the trauma happened with the animal that had happened and heal from the, I just am starting to think out loud. But anyway, Karen is from Australia and she's up early. I heard a beautiful story about a man who went into a disaster area and drew portraits of the people, which in turn prompt them to tell their story. Beautiful. Really beautiful, Karen. Karen's a nurse, is a surgery. What do you call it, Rose? A surgery nurse? Recovery room nurse. Which, can you imagine people coming out of surgery and this, wherever they were, and with that anesthesia, the stories. So that's fascinating. Fascinating. Anything else, Rose? Any other questions from our viewers? Anything else you might
I like
want to
what
say?
Gail
Rose? Yeah.
challenged.
Yeah.
Yonatan, thank you so much for being with us. There's a whole new world out there of photography.
Yeah, so exciting.
I mean,
it's almost like therapy doesn't have to be like, we're coming away from talk therapy to, sorry to interrupt you, Rose. I learned it from my Israeli friends, but I interrupt. But no, I'll take responsibility for my interrupting. But I'm coming from a place of like talk therapy to like action. And lots of time Rose will tell people to go out to nature and go to the river.
The other thing is that we've always used, I mean, look at Shakespeare, look at all those amazing poets and authors that they all bring us out to another space. And that's what Yonatan's done. He's brought us to that amazing space of nature as well, as well as the human intellect. And I just love Yonatan. It's just amazing.
Beautiful. Really. Really.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it's, I think cameras, I read somewhere that in the whole 19th century, they took as much pictures, but then today we're taking in 2 minutes the same amount of pictures as the whole 19th century. So we are creating stories everywhere all the time, and we have a control of what is the story that we're about to tell, what is the story that we're going to tell. By the way, I'm sure that if the media would show us, at least in Israel, the media coverage is 80% negative, 20% positive. I'm not getting into political question, blah, blah, but generally the stories that you see are 80% negative, 20% positive. I believe that if it was closer to the truth, which is 50-50, we could have a better world. Because when you see a negative story, it touches negativity within you. And
anxiety.
When you see a positive story, you are inspired. It's encouraging your positive inner energy to support you better. If you just speak negative all the time, you will find negative. But if you speak positive, you will find positive.
Exactly. Yeah. True that. Yeah. Are you guys going to go to bed?
Everybody's going to bed in Denmark. And
but not.
how many people did we have with us today? Do you know?
A couple hundred.
That's great. Wow. So you can go.
I'm visualizing what I want to create.
What was that, John? What did you say?
No, I'm just saying. So if you want to follow me, you can either go on Facebook, Yonatan Nir. I think my personal one is already 5,000 people, but my business one, Yonatan Nir, with Yonatan Nir in Hebrew, but you'll see, and then you can watch my TED talk, and you can get connected to my newsletter, and within a month or 2 months, all these films will be
Good.
on the platform. You'll be able to watch them, and I'm doing like once a week or twice a week talks on Zoom about my films. At the moment, only in Hebrew, but we can also do it together with you in English on all of my films. Each one of them has a specific crazy story.
No, it's amazing.
It has amazing story, not crazy story.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it depth of human life. Yeah. I mean, that polar bear man, like just looking at him jumping in the water with the polar bear.
Fearless.
Creepy.
Fearless.
Fearless.
Thank
exactly.
you so much. Thank your wife.
Thank you
and
very much.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Good night.
And come back and visit. Rose, you're the best in the whole world. I love you. Good night. Good night, everybody out there.
Good night, everyone. Good morning, the rest of the world.
Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you.